Hello, and welcome to the Queen & Company Summer Lovin' Creative Card Kit video tutorial. My name is Ginger Williams, and I am very excited to be with you today as we get ready to explore this very fun and easy new kit. We appreciate your purchase, and we'd like to make it as easy as possible for you to have fun assembling it. So when you first receive your kit, you will get a packet like this that has an important notice on the back, as well as all of the pieces of the kit inside. You'll also get this instruction sheet that has the pictures of exactly how each of these cards is going to turn out. Now, in addition to the items in your kit, there's a few things that you will absolutely need. The first of which is that you will need 6 A2 card bases. Now, A2 size means that your height is going to be 5.5 inches and your width is going to be 4.25 inches. So you're going to need 6 of those. They are not included in the kit, but should you not have any on hand, they're very easy to make if you just simply take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock and cut it in half down the middle so that you get 2 card bases from that sheet of paper. 3 sheets of paper will get you all that you need in terms of card bases. So you'll have your kit, you'll have your 6 card bases. You will also need some adhesives, so pick your favorites. My personal favorites is a liquid glue. This particular one is art glitter glue, as well as I prefer having some dimensional adhesive on hand. I like foam tape, but if you have some sort of pop glue dot or other type of raised adhesive, feel free to grab that. Or if you want to make them flatter, that's just fine too. You can stick with your favorite tape runner or your favorite type of glue. It's just whatever your favorites are. If you are using some sort of foam tape, you might need a pair of scissors. Otherwise, everything in the kit is already pre-cut for you. So scissors you may or may not need depending on what type of adhesives you're going to use. And then we recommend a few optional supplies. This is all that you really need, but there's a few things that may come in real handy. The first is we recommend having some sort of way to sort into 6 piles. Today I'm going to be using these. These are just little small dishes. I think these are personal casserole type dishes, but I use them to sort things for crafting. And I'm going to have 6 of those handy to help me keep the pieces for each card straight. And I'm not mixing, matching onto the wrong cord, or heaven forbid losing my pieces. It doesn't have to be anything fancy like this though. Paper plates will work, or simple Ziploc bags. Anything that can help you keep your pieces separate and waiting for you where you'll be able to find them again when it's time to work on the next card would be handy. I set those aside for a minute. A couple other things that would probably be handy is a set of Post-it notes. I've got a small set of Queen & Company sticky notes. These make it easy to keep track of the clear, let's see if I can see them on here. Oh, nope, they're hiding inside. But there is clear acetate covers inside this packet near your foam that are a little tricky to find once you've got your table spread out and covered with a bunch of other things. So if we can have some sort of a sticky note or perhaps a separate bag to keep track of those, you'll find that handy as well. You may also want a small little spoon of some sort. I've got my trusty little Queen & Company spoon, but any kind of small spoonish thing might be handy as we are scooping our little shaker embellishments out of its baggie. It can be handy to have something like that on hand. We also recommend, depending on the climate that you live in, if static is ever a problem for you, there are several different ways to help tame static. It can be as simple as a dryer sheet to a powder bag or powder tool, or my personal favorite is a small misting bottle with a very fine mist. I'll show you as we get to the topping steps of your cards how you might be able to use any of these objects to help you tame static should you have it. Now I'm here in the Houston area, and the humidity today is exceptionally high, so I probably will not have a need for that, and you may not either depending on the humidity in your own climate. You're going to want to keep your instruction guide here handy because we're going to reference it a lot. But let's go ahead and open up our packet. You'll note that there is a notice on your packet. We sent you an email basically detailing a lot of these things already, as well as giving you a few tips and hints of things that might be helpful to have on hand, like I just went through, and basically just saying, hey, if you open this before you start watching the video, it's highly likely you might lose a piece. So we recommend not opening it until you're ready to dive in and start creating. But we are, so let me move a few things aside so that I have lots of table space, because we are going to start sorting. And well, first we're going to start punching out all of the pieces, and then we will start sorting. So mine actually is already kind of torn on the side, so I'm going to open it from the side here. We're going to remove that little bag of toppings. We'll put that where we can find it easily. We're going to remove our epoxy dot embellishments and set them aside. And inside here are the clear acetate covers that I was talking about earlier. You can see how easy it is to lose them, amongst other things. The first thing I'm going to do is reach for my little sticky note, and I'm going to put it right on my little baggie first of all. But later on, I'm going to open the bag, and we're going to separate those into 6 different piles with our cards. I'm going to use other sticky notes to help us keep track of them at that point. These are my foam pieces. For right now, we're just going to set those aside. We will punch those out a little bit later. All right. Now, for all the pieces that are in your kit, you should have several sheets, and you can see some of these ones, the punch outs are actually really good. They're not going to be difficult for you to punch out, particularly this large sheet. Look at this. See, it's already kind of falling apart, but that's good because that means that you won't have to worry too much about how difficult it would be to get those separated. You just want to make sure that you do get all of those pieces. You can see that if you keep this handy, you should be able to verify that you have all of your pieces and you didn't lose anything. So I'm going to do that too, just to be sure I can keep track that everything didn't get shoved inside these other sheets here. Yep, looks like I have it all. So I'm going to sort by colors first. So one pile here of our plain white or nearly plain white. One has a sentiment written on it. That's going to go in its own pile. Now, let's make a pile for the green. We'll go ahead and punch all of those out. One thing you might want your scissors for is that occasionally right where they were attached, you may have a teeny tiny bit of a hanging chad kind of left over. Feel free to use your scissors to trim any of those that are big enough to be objectionable. These really do punch out well though, so there probably won't be too much of that going on for you. But should you end up with a little piece, those handy pair of scissors will make that easy. You can see that I just took these pieces out. I'm going to remove those and throw those away because they are not going to be needed in our card making today, at least. All right, let's get these leaves punched out. There are several of these. And so we want to make sure we get all of them because we have got a couple different cards that are going to use these leaves. And pretty much all of the cards that use flowers and leaves uses one of these big ones and one of these small ones. So let's go ahead and get those all punched out. And our green little banner. These little apples are very small. And you'll find in this kit that when you have very small objects, you're going to have multiples of them because those little small ones have a tendency to try to wander off. And so we included some extras of all of the small pieces, plus a few other extras just to let you have confidence that you'll have everything you need, as well as should you decide you want to customize a little bit, you'll find that you have enough extra pieces that you could do a little bit of customization according to your own tastes. So all the pieces you need to make it exactly as pictured, as well as some fun little extras where we had some extra space on our little creative sheets. You can see that even this fun little notebook style piece punches out very easily. Okay, this one is a color all on its own. This is our loaf of bread for our picnic basket. I'm going to make sure I put it where I can see it and don't mix it in with your greens. And then here you have a whole bunch of sentiment choices. And you'll notice that there's more than 6 because just like with your accent pieces, you get some choices today in what you're going to have your cards say. So I'm just going to make a little pile right now of all of our sentiment choices. And then you can decide as we get to each card which sentiment you want to use and put on that card. All right. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is that when you're picking your card bases, you might want to stay away from a card base that is like a pure, bright, snowy white, because there is just a tiniest bit of a eggshell look to some of these. It's a beautiful, fun little matte. I don't know if it's not quite off-white, but just a little bit more of a yellow than a blue white. So you want to make sure that if you're picking out your cardstock colors and you want them to match, I've picked these. This is I think Nina Solar White. It's a great option for that, because rather than the bright bluish white, say for example that my instruction sheet is printed on, you might be able to tell from the camera. I'm not sure if you can or not from the video, but this is just slightly warmer white than that is. Not really even eggshell. It's still white, but it's a warmer white. And if you're looking for a color that will match that, you might want to keep that in mind. Okay, next color we're going to make out of a pile is our reds. And I find when I'm making a pile, oftentimes it helps to start with my biggest piece, because that way I can punch out these smaller pieces and fit them on top. Okay, now the bicycle does have a lot of little pieces, so go slow. You don't want to rip anything like our little bicycle seat off. There we go. There's also this piece inside that you're going to want to remove and throw away. There's also one more little piece right in here you want to make sure you remove. There we go. All right, the rest of these should be easier than that bicycle. Circles. This is the little, what you call it, little flip-flop piece that holds it onto your foot. You're going to have 2 of those to remove. I want to get each one out. They are identical. When we get ready to assemble these flip-flops, you might be looking for a right or left, but you'll find if you lay them on top of each other that they are identical, and that even though your flip-flops are different, this piece is not. Oh, mine doesn't want to come out. That's one spot where I'm going to need my scissors. So good to have them handy. Moments like this, where I can just give it the tiniest little trim where it didn't want to let go. Okay. And the rest of our red pieces here. I really like this large scallop. One thing about these, this particular card kit is that it is designed so that you don't have to do any cutting. However, if you like these shapes and if you like this particular kit, these are based upon one of our brand new releases called the Summer Lovin kit, and also our simple die cutting pieces that we call our foundations. They cut out the various shapes, like exactly what you see in this kit, from the flowers to the stars to the base pieces. We have 2 new sets coming out. That is Foundation 26 and 27, and all of these shapes can be found within those kits. And all of the shakers, such as the bicycle and the flip-flops and the barbecue, let's see, the picnic basket, and the hot air balloon, they can all be found within that Summer Lovin kit. So should you want to replicate this by doing your own designing or your own cutting, those are extras that you can pick up starting on May the 3rd in order to recreate all of this in your own way, rather than just the way that we scripted for you in this kit. Okay, almost done with the red here. Again, more of these little tiny pieces like the apples, stars. And these little pieces here go to our picnic basket. They are part of the little tablecloth or napkins that are coming out of our little picnic basket that looks so cute and give it that fun little hint of color there. Okay, apples. And then also, of course, at the bottom corner here, we have this large fun title that mimics the add-on die that you can buy to the Summer Lovin kit that gives you that nice large title cut. And rather than just cutting out one large piece with printed, you actually get the, take away the white, and that's what you'll get in the die cut. In order to layer 2 of those die cuts together, you can purchase that if you are interested. All right, next sheet and next pile, we've got this fun, funky floral paper that I really love. The papers or the designs on the pieces that we're using today come from the papers from the Summer Lovin kit. So even if you just like the papers and wish you had more of that, you can pick up the Summer Loving paper pads. They come in both patterned and in the solids that match these colors. And you could add that and go to town making fun new creations with the same papers. Okay. Not too many in this particular color to punch out. All right. Get that border piece out. And we've got some flowers here. And it might be even easier. Sometimes it's tricky to see some of these. So when you have a very busy pattern like that, you might find it's easier to flip it over to the back side. And then it makes it a little easier to see where you should be punching your pieces out. Okay, so that's it for this particular floral. Now you've got some bicycle wheels here. And these are fun. They're like a kind of a grayish, really light grayish color. And you'll notice that the back side is that white. So it might be helpful if you make sure you set those down where this is actually extra. You're not actually going to need that piece. You can let it go because you are going to use this slightly larger. Let me show you the size difference. When you get these out together, you'll see this middle piece that came from the center of this. That smaller one you don't need. Set it aside, okay? But this larger one you do need. So again, because we have two wheels on a bicycle, you've got two of those pieces. Pop out that center piece, keep the tire, and then keep this backing piece to the shaker. But you can set aside those smaller pieces. Oh, and you can't see me putting them aside. There you go, now you can see them. You are going to need those. Okay? And also, try not to flip these upside down. It might confuse you later if you have a bunch of white circles when you're looking for a gray circle. Try to keep them right side up. All right, we have the spokes to our bicycle. We're going to put those next to our wheels here. There we go. And two, okay. And then we have these little pieces which go to our hot air balloon as well as our bicycle. So we're going to set those down right here in our little kind of gray area. And get those all put where we can easily see them later. And just like I said with other small pieces, yes, you do have extras. You have more than you need. Just trying to make sure that those little pieces, if they try to go astray on you, you've got a backup. Oh, okay. All right, and that's it for that sheet. Next, let's do our stripes. And these are fairly large pieces, so they'll punch out pretty quick and easy. Let's make another pile over here for stripes. Quite a few fun little kind of border pieces with the stripes. To me, just make wonderful borders, so you'll see that we did a lot of that in this particular kit. So while we're punching these out, keep in mind that if you like even just the colors in these particular papers, that they only represent a handful of the papers in that paper pad. There are additional florals and additional tone-on-tone prints and additional patterns in that paper pad. So if you're enjoying even the color palette, you might want to check out the full paper pad because not everything is shown in this kit. All right, small banner piece. And then we've got a couple of stars, big stars here. We already did the little stars. Okay, and there are our stripe pieces. Now these pieces right here are primarily for the basket, although we also have the small basket of the hot air balloon here, and we also have the bicycle seat and the bicycle pedal and the bicycle basket. So we can go ahead and punch those out or we can leave them. I think right now I'm just actually going to leave them so that when you look for a brown piece, you know it's still here in the sheet. I'm going to set it over here. Oops, sorry, bumped the camera. Just off to the side so that we can get to that a little later when it's time for those small pieces, since they're all fairly small. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and punch out this kind of pretty aqua or turquoise piece of paper here. Make another pile down here of all of our pieces. On this sheet, you've got some fun background pieces as well as the bases or the kind of the outline of your flip-flops, as well as some fun little accent flowers and circles. So, and again, if you're having trouble kind of seeing where to push and where not to push, flip it to the back side. I'm going to do that for this particular piece because it makes it way easier to see where to push and where to pull, and that way I don't inadvertently rip one of these pieces when I don't want to. There we go. Okay, flip-flops are the same as the bicycle wheels. You will not be needing that inner piece because the flip-flops, if you look at your cover sheet, don't use that color for the center. We have a bigger piece in the floral paper we punched out earlier that we are going to use. So feel free to take that center piece and set it out of the way so it won't get confusing because you will not need it later. Same thing with the other flip-flop. Punch out that centerpiece. Don't need that one. Okay. Next, stars. Got them in 2 sizes in this particular color, as well as 2 of our little mason jars that go with the picnic basket. There we go. Another flower here. And then a couple other little circles and flowers down here in this area. Perfect. And this very last border piece in that color is now complete. Okay, and then down here, you can see I already had one piece fall out. It's just sitting there on top of my others. This is the top to our grill. I'm going to find a little home for it up here. Move my sheet out of the way so I don't lose pieces. They're already trying to run away on me. Okay, and the other pieces to our grill will pop up there. You know, as you can see, there's a lot of pieces, and so it really does help to have a large open work area. Okay, and then with the grill, as with the bicycle wheels, as with the flip-flops, that center piece in the middle of that particular piece of the grill, you're not going to need. You can let that one go to your waste pile. In fact, I'm going to start a whole little waste pile over here of all those pieces. All right, same thing. This is still part of the grill, and it's the grill base, and you are not going to need all of those little inner pieces, including this little piece right here inside that wheel. Make sure and pop that out. All right, we are now down to our last sheet. This one is hard to see all the perforations, so I'm going to do it mainly from the back side. All those little dots make it very difficult to see where we're punching things out, but that's a good start. Okay, large border piece and our hot air balloon pieces here, large circles, rectangle border pieces. In case you were wondering, the new foundations that are coming out are all new. They are different shapes than in any of the other previous foundation die sets. And so if you are a collector and you have all of our others, yeah, you won't get any duplicates. These are all brand new shapes. And if you are new to Queen & Company, these particular 2 new sets coming out, 26 and 27, are kind of designed with you mainly in mind, although they work for any of our customers that enjoy the foundation dies. These 2 sets just give you a broad variety of sentiment strips, some basic flowers, some basic stars, some basic shapes that are just really useful. Plus, and I'll talk about this more in a different video, these ones are designed to work together to help you create cards just like the 6 that we're doing today. I put together guides that I call die cutting guides that show you how to lay the dies in those 2 sets out on those, 6 pieces of pattern paper, and cut out using up almost all of the paper, kind of like you see with these. You know, this has a little extra spot here where we didn't actually put anything. We just didn't need any extra polka dot pieces. But just like we use up all of the area in these particular sheets to punch out, you can use up all of those 6 pattern paper pieces from the coordinating pattern papers in our kits. And then if you cut it out the way I show you, you'll have piles just like what we're about to do now, where you can then go through and create these exact same type of cards with any of our pattern paper pads. Die cutting guides are a lot of fun. They really help you stretch all of your various pieces, paper pads, kits, all of it. You get stretched to create a lot more. All right, hopefully you can see this. I'm trying to figure out where the best place to put it is. Maybe right here, because you can still see what I'm doing. We are going to go card by card, finding all the pieces for each card, and we're going to sort them into piles now so that you'll be able to go through and start assembling after you've got everything sorted to where it belongs. So we're going to start here, right here with the Hello Summer card. It has, as a background piece, the first layer, I'll call it, is this fun floral piece. So that goes into the container there. Then the next layer is going to be this red scalloped piece. So let's go to our red pile. We'll find that piece and sort it into our container there. Then underneath that, I've got a striped piece, which is this one here. And then another red. Oh, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. Another green little banner piece across the edge there, or I guess border would be a better word for that. This one, you know what? I looked at the wrong one. Okay. This is fatter. Can you see how it goes all the way up? So I've got the wrong one. So pardon me for just a minute. We need that wider striped piece. So the wider striped piece, followed by the green. And then from our white pile here, we're going to need this piece. Okay. We're also going to need those two cloud pieces. And then over here, we've got a green banner piece and a striped banner piece of different sizes. So let's see, we're going to need the larger one here, like this. And then from the stripes, we're going to need that smaller piece, smaller banner, just like that. Okay, then the last, well, there's two layers. The next layer after this is the sentiment, Hello Summer. So let's make sure that gets into the container. And then after that, we've got a red flower piece, like this, a polka dot circle, and let's see, let me do a size check. Sometimes I have to check. Yep, that's the right size. We have a couple different sizes of circles in these kits. You can see them here for comparison. Oops, just the two. So it should be pretty easy to tell which one you need. So those there, and then a blue flower that looks like this. The center of that flower is an epoxy dot, so that's not a shape we're going to need. That gets us card number 1, we'll call that one our Hello Summer card, with all of its pieces in its container. So now I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to move on to the next card kit. In fact, I'm going to take one of my card bases, and I'm going to put that in that container as well. I'll do that for all of them. That way we can keep track that we have all the pieces that we need. Okay, so next we'll do our flip-flop card. And that is going to have this as a base, that fun aqua turquoise color. And then we have this floral scalloped piece over here. And after that, we've got a red border piece across, but we also have tucked right behind that a little tiny skinny part of one of these border pieces sticking out from behind it. So let's make sure we get both of those in there. Okay, after that, let's grab the white rounded rectangle that goes next. There it is. All right, after that, let's go ahead and grab the sentiment and that sentiment banner that goes behind it. That's this piece here. Then for sentiments, let's talk about how you have several choices here, okay? For the flip-flop card, we tried to give you 2 choices for each card. And these are the ones for that card. We have Sending Sunshine Your Way or Hope Your Day is Flippin' Awesome. I'm going to go, wait, that's a hard choice. I'm going to put that off for later. I'm going to put both of them in there, and I will decide that when we get ready to assemble, because I like them both. Okay, next, let's get all the pieces that we need for our flip-flops, okay? So the base of our flip-flops is from that fun floral paper, and you can see those look like this. And let's go ahead and take those and put those in the container. And now the next layer is going to be from our kind of blue turquoisey color. I'm not even sure. Aqua maybe is what you call it. You have the 2 frames. Okay, you also have the 2 red flip-flop tops. Okay, But now we have a few pieces we're going to need because on this card we didn't need extra pieces. This one is not a shaker, but because this is a shaker card, there's some extra pieces that we need. The first of which is we're going to need the foam. Okay, the foam here, we're going to pop these out. And we're going to put those into our container. Okay, then the other pieces we're going to need are going to be these acetate covers. But I'm not going to have us assemble all of the shakers as we go. I'm actually going to have us create all the shakers first once we've got this all sorted. And so I'm actually going to leave this in this container. This is going to be the one thing we're not going to put into the container at the moment. But keep an eye on it. Make sure you know where it is, okay? All right. So that completes everything that we're going to need in this kit for the time being, or in this for this card for the time being. Okay, next container. Let's go ahead and get this particular picnic basket card done. The first piece we're going to need is actually this little red notebook paper strip that's going to go on the side, followed by this large polka dot paper. Whoops, I'm going to lose a star. Make sure I turn these over so I don't get them mixed up. Okay, so this piece next, followed by our white background piece, and this is one that I didn't give you too many choices on. If you want to use one of these extra pieces later, cover that up, you can, but right now you're pretty much stuck with this particular sentiment. I hope you like it. But if you should choose later on to cover it up with something else, you certainly could and use a different sentiment of your own. But let's get that into our container right now. Okay, after that, we have this blue and this striped border pieces, or turquoise and border and stripes. So there's that one, and another one of those stripes. Okay, and then after that, I'm just realizing it, and you probably realized it before I did. I forgot to grab our flower pieces for our flip-flop cards. I got distracted by doing the shakers, so I'll put this on top for just a minute here, and let's complete that one before I go any further so I don't forget where I was at. So we're going to need one large and one small of those flower pieces. We're also going to need a polka dot flower. It looks like this. We're going to need a small red circle here, and we're going to need a small aqua flower. Okay, now that one's complete, and we'll set it aside. Okay, let's go back to where we were here. We had just finished our two border pieces here. So let's go ahead and finish up with this green border here, and then we can do our flowers. So here it is. There's the green border piece, or banner piece. And then it has a fun little printed flower here with the floral print on it, followed by a red floral piece. Right there, red flower piece. And then down in the corner, it also uses a large and a small leaf, a aqua flower, which is here, followed in the middle by a polka dot little flower, like this. And then, as I mentioned earlier with this flower, the red here, the pink here, the blue here, those are epoxy dots, and we will add those later. Okay, let's talk about the shaker for this piece. There's a lot going on for this particular piece. And because we're going to assemble the shakers and all these little pieces all together, we're actually going to hold off on that one. If you remember correctly, it is here. Most of the pieces are right here on this piece. So we're going to hold off on putting those all in until we're ready to assemble that particular shaker. It just has quite a bit going on, and to keep from getting complicated, we will do that separately. But I do want you to punch out your foam piece, your foam for your shaker. And let's get that into the container for that particular card. Let's give it also a card base so I can keep track of my card bases. And that is it for that card. I'm going to double check from now on. And I will set that one aside. All right, we've already halfway there for sorting. We're doing great. So next, let's do our barbecue card. We're going to need that large striped banner, which looks like this. And then we need the blue notebook paper, like this. And then we've got a polka dot, skinny polka dot piece right here, followed by this white, I don't know, picture frame, funny, fancy picture frame there, right here, piece. And then we've got a green circle, large green circle, which looks like that. And then you've got a blue star. Actually, let's do the red circle first. Sorry, we're the small red circle for here. Then that large blue or aqua star. And then a small polka dot star. And then a miniature polka dot star as well. So look through all those little tiny stars. We've got one of those. And then over on this side, we also have a small green circle and a red star, a larger one, and a small polka dot star there as well in the center. Let's see. Must be one of these here. Yes, okay. So the stars come in 3 sizes. You've got large, medium, and miniature. This is a large and a medium. And we already put our one miniature one over there. Okay. Now, for sentiments options here. You've got well done, Dad. If you've got somebody in your family, a father in your family that maybe likes to grill, that could be a perfect Father's Day card. Or if you wanted to go with a birthday option, holy smokes, it's your birthday. Anybody who enjoys a backyard barbecue would enjoy a card like that for their birthday. So, now, that completes everything except for the shaker. Now, these parts are a lot less complicated than the basket, so let's go ahead and get them into their bin here, into their container. There is the bottom to your barbecue. This piece here is the base to the shaker portion of your barbecue. This is the cover to the foam of your barbecue. And this is the lid right here. Let's get all of those pieces in there. And then let's also go get the foam that matches that particular shaker. That is this piece right here. And in it goes. All right. 2 more to go. Oh, and a card base. Let's get that in there too. Okay. Coming into the last 2 here. So another container to keep this straight. Let's do our fun hot air balloon card. It uses 3 of these wide banner or border pieces that go all the way across your card. You've got polka dot, stripe, and floral. So let's grab all 3 of those. So polka dot, stripe, and floral. Put those in. Followed by this red piece here, this red kind of rounded rectangle piece here. Like that. We've got a large white banner. After that, there's that piece. And after that, we've got a green banner piece here, or border piece, or whatever you want to call it there, that's not quite rectangle. It's just this fun little curvy rectangle where the top and bottom sides curve inward. Gives it a fun little interesting shape. And then again, you get to choose what sentiment you want. So here, let's see. These ones go for the bicycle. These here are your options for your hot air balloon. You have just a note to lift you up, and you soar above the rest. So I'm going to probably go, well, yes, let's go with just a note to lift you up for me. Feel free to choose which one works for you. I'm going to set that one aside for my extras pile. And there will be several things in the extras pile after that. Okay, so for our accents, we've got 2 of these aqua circles, which I have down here. They look like this. 2 of these kind of medium polka dotted stars. Grab those. And then down here, we've got a striped star followed by a red star. So one of these larger striped stars and one of these medium-sized red stars. Okay, that completes the card base. Now for the shaker, you have this fun polka dot piece here for the base of your shaker, followed by this green decorative piece that goes on top of the foam. Then here you've got this little brown basket, and if you remember, it's on this card, and I am going to go ahead at this moment and punch, or on this, sorry, it's on this piece of printed cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and punch that piece out right now. Okay. So, our little basket. There it is. And then there's also this little gray piece here that covers the base of your hot air balloon. If you remember, we have those punched out here, and there are several extras. Go ahead and grab just one of them, but you can keep track of extra. Maybe you can't see my extras. There's my extras up there. So I have a few extras, but you only need one. The others are just in case it gets lost. All right, and that completes everything that we need other than the foam. Let's grab the foam. Punch out your foam for that particular shaker. Okay. Put it in your container or baggie or whatever it is you're using to sort things. There's mine with everything in it. And I'm going to set that one aside. And we are in the home stretch now. On to our very last card. And let's see. Let's set my other container on the other side. Okay, so final container. Home stretch here. Our bicycle card. Okay, the base layer here is going to be that green notebook paper. Let's put that here. A floral border rectangle here that goes that way. After that, we have our white two-corner rounded rectangle piece. That goes in there. Followed by this fun aqua rounded rectangle, but this one's rounded opposite of the one on the hot air balloon. This one is rounded outward on the top and the bottom. Makes a great little accent piece to go behind your sentiments. Love setting the sentiments off with a little bit of color behind them. And then, just like our other cards, you get two choices in sentiments. Have a really great day, or life is a beautiful ride with you for a friend. That's a hard choice for me as well, but I'm gonna go with the friend one this time, I think. And I'll set the other one aside. Okay. So now let's grab our flower pieces, okay? You've got two left here of the large and small leaves. Let's add those to the container. And then you've also got this fun red flower. And then here we've got this floral, smaller flower that gets layered on top of it. And you should also have a small red flower that goes underneath there. Okay. And let's see, now I think we're down to the bicycle. So your bicycle base is easy to spot, and that goes in the container there. Now, if you remember what I told you earlier about your wheels, it's a little hard to see on this particular piece, but these are a light gray color. So these are the base of the shakers for your wheels, and you have two of them, and white on one side and a little bit kind of a barely hint of gray on the other. Let's keep those right side up and put those in there. And then these will be the cover for our foam pieces right here. Put those in. And then we also have our spokes, which technically go actually underneath those covers. Maybe we should have put those in first, but we'll do that when we assemble it. Okay, the rest of our pieces are on that brown cardstock. Let's go ahead and punch those out right now. That is the basket right here. We can add that to the container. And then we've also got two other pieces here. This is the bicycle seat. And you can see there's actually an extra bicycle seat right there. I'm going to leave it there for now. There is also this little piece here, which is the pedal of the bicycle. And you'll notice again, right here, there is an extra of that. I'm just going to leave those in there. Now, all we're left with on this piece of the two shades of brown are the pieces we'll need for our basket, and then these two little extra pieces for the bicycle. So let's leave those in there for now. Okay. All right. Double check to make sure we got everything, but that is looking good. We do need the foam though. So let's take our last two pieces of foam that are left on our foam sheet, and we're going to punch those out. There we go. Okay, so very good. Now, you'll notice something. There's quite a few little extra pieces here. Now, some of these are not extras. Let's go ahead and grab our basket card. That is this one here. There's a few pieces here that we can take and put in the basket right now. Let's go ahead and sort those out, because it's not just the brown pieces I showed you a moment ago that we need. We also need these two small red pieces that are part of the like I told you before, like a tablecloth peeking out, or part of a, I don't know if you want to call it a napkin, but some little thing decorative poking out of your basket. You also have two apples. Now, you only need one for the way it's depicted, and then you have an extra. So I'm going to start making an extra pile up above, probably where you can't see. In the greens, we also have a similar situation. We have some green apples, of which you only need one, and a green mason jar, of which you only need one. And the other two are spares. If you want to stick them in your basket, you can. But for right now, I'm going to create a pile where they just sit up there in case one of these tries to wander off on me. We also have our loaf of bread. Let's go ahead and get that, into the basket. And then we also need 2 lids to our mason jar. That's what these little gray pieces are here. So I'm going to grab those and put those in here. But again, you've got 2 extras that we punched out earlier. And I'm going to put those up in my extras pile in case anything tries to wander off and I'm like, oh no, where to go? Well, now I have extras and I can go grab that instead. Okay. So, extras for your sentiments. Let's go ahead and put those aside. And then should you want to use them, you can, but they're going to go in my extras pile along with these other ones I put aside earlier. And then these pieces here. And like I said, there's quite a bit. So if something goes wandering off on you, don't worry too much. There's quite a few choices. Oh, I do see one more thing that needs to go in this basket though, okay? We do want an aqua mason jar in there as well because we have 2 mason jars. That's why we have 2 lids. Okay. But the rest of these pieces here, I was just filling up those creative sheets where there was some extra space and just making sure that you had some fun extra pieces. Maybe you'd rather have a flower that looks like this as opposed to one of the ones on the instruction sheet. Maybe you'd rather have a different color of star or a different color of flower or circle. So you have a few choices. These are the extras from the bicycle. I'm going to move those out of the way. And then all of these pieces are getting moved up to my extras pile up in the corner where you probably can't see them, but they're there. There they are. Just waiting, should they be needed. So let's get started here. Let's go back to our instruction sheet. And you're going to find all of the pieces for our Hello Summer card, our card number 1. Here is my container for that. I'm going to set all of my other containers aside here so that I don't get anything confused. And I keep it simple by just putting together the one card, okay? Okay, making sure my crease is good here. All right, I'm going to pull up those favorite adhesives I told you about earlier. And let's get to work. Because all the pieces are now sorted for you, they really come together pretty dang fast and easy, which I love. Fast and easy is definitely the name of the game when it comes to card making, so that you can get a lot done in a short amount of time. Okay, let's go ahead. Oh, I've got some goopiness here. Let me wipe that off real fast. I have stainless steel pins in my glue bottle. However, seems like they may not be as stainless steel as the manufacturer claimed, because they do still sometimes have that tiny bit of rust if they sit for a long time. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and glue that one down. And you can see if you look at your instruction sheet, it's pretty close to the top. It's not all the way to the top, but it's pretty close to the top. So I'm going to use that as my guide to get that glued on approximately there. Get it lined up to my card edges. I like using liquid glue because you just have a moment or two of a little bit of wiggle room in case you decide you want to move it around a little bit. All right, the next piece we're going to glue on is going to be that red border piece, and it goes down towards the bottom and base of your card. Down here, about like this. And again, I'm going to use my guide, my printed guide here, to kind of show about how much of that white should be showing there at the bottom. It should be something about like that. So we are overlapping that first piece of cardstock just a little bit of printed cardstock. Okay. Up next are stripes. And that looks pretty good. And again, looking at my guide, you can see that the stripe paper is going to come just above the crease or the pinnacles of the scalloped part there, so that not too much of that scallop piece is going to show, just a hint of it there, not the whole thing for certain. You can see I have a grid printed on my mat here, and it can kind of help me make sure I'm getting things on there straight. I can line it up from here to here and see I'm close to straight there, which that looks pretty good. Okay, next is our green piece. Let me pull this over. There we go. Flowing a little better. Had to clear a little bit of a clog. It's not supposed to clog, but it does still a little bit sometimes. Oh, pardon me. Please do not glue that down yet. This piece is actually first. Need to look at my instruction sheet a little closer. Okay. This piece first. You can see that green piece goes right over the top of it. And this piece here is going to be centered around the middle of your card, and just a few little bits of that are going to come down over the red. It's going to go be positioned about there. Looks centered, okay. And now the green piece. It almost got on there a little too early. It's going to go right about here. You can see that there's more of the stripes showing underneath than above. So it's not quite centered on that striped paper. Just going across it. Okay. Now, this next piece here, the Hello Summer, you can see it overlaps the clouds a bit. So we're going to start on the clouds first. And they are here. And I'm going to glue this first one straight down onto my paper here. But this second one is going to get popped up with some foam tape, because I'm also going to pop up the Hello Summer sentiment. So one cloud just glued straight down. About here. We want to save room for that banner piece, which is going to come down. So about here. I'm going to let it pop up just a little bit higher. Like that. Is it straight? There we go. Straighter. And then this piece, let's pull up my handy foam tape. This is Scotch double-sided foam tape in the 1/2-inch size. I buy in large rolls online. I use it so much. It's awful handy though. Trim that down just a bit though. I really like the extra dimension that can be added from foam tape, so I definitely use quite a bit of it. I'll stick that piece there for perhaps being used later. Okay. We'll peel off the backing, and then we'll lay this piece. Let's see, our little cloud looks like it would be happy right about here. Is that high enough? Yeah, I think so. So, because we want to make sure we have room, this is our title piece, and I'm going to pop it up on foam tape as well. But I want it to kind of overlap those clouds just a little bit there, and that looks like it's going to be perfect. But first, let's take our little banner pieces that go in that upper left corner and get those put down, glued down. These are another element that I sometimes use foam tape on for dimension, but this time, because we've got that flower on top of them, I think it makes more sense just to simply glue them down flat, because they're already pretty dimensional here. Okay, there we go. Sometimes I don't mind if the little bit of the bottom of the banner piece isn't glued down all the way, because it can add a little bit of fun to have that flipping up a little bit. There we go. Straighter. Too much. Like I said, I like that liquid glue gives you just a moment or two of adjustment time to make sure things are straight. Okay. And next, this fun little striped mini banner piece, or smaller banner piece. It's going to get overlapped on the green, but not completely. It's going to hang off just a little bit, making a nice fun little home for our flowers here. There we go. All right, now let's add our title piece here with some foam tape. The only thing I need to watch is that I don't want foam tape to come up too far. I don't want it to overlap our already popped up cloud here. So I'm just going to add it slightly below that on those L's there, so that for sure I'm not going to be trying to double layer in that one spot. That would get us popped up in one area where we are not popped up in other areas, you know, 2 whole layers, and we don't want that. Okay, so some people do a better job than me at really filling and supporting every piece of the title, but I have found that for the most part, This paper is fairly thick that these sentiments are printed on. They don't need to be full coverage per se, but if it bothers you, by all means, add more, but that's about what I normally do. So we'll pull all of those liners off, and then we'll add this to the front. And then this card will only need the flower to be completed. Okay. Hello, summer. Get that centered on our green piece. Tuck down. I'm going to move it over just a little bit. There we go. Looks about right. All right. Next step, let's assemble our little flower here. And again, this is a place where I like to have a little dimension as well. So I'm going to pop up just the two of them. I'm going to leave this one not popped up because I don't want to get too tall. We only got one layer of foam tape here. So if I put foam tape on all three of those, that's going to make it quite a bit taller than the other items we've already got on this card. And so when I've got a thick like shaker, I might go for that because it'll give it a little bit more of an even height because the shaker is already pretty tall. Let's see, do I need a little piece there? Maybe. Something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, just enough to give it some good support. Okay. So flower just goes directly kind of centered across those two banner pieces. And let's see, I'm going to put it straight up and down. Like that. Okay. And then this fun little circle with the polka dots gets centered right about there, I think. Yep, looks good. And then this little piece I'm just going to glue on. Because, I have to remember, too, that the epoxy dots that we will add at the very end to all of our cards also add a little bit of dimension in that spot. So in order to keep it from getting too high, just go with that. Okay. Now, we will add those epoxy dots, but not till the end. And it just makes it easier to add the epoxy to all 6 cards all at once. But otherwise, that card is complete and ready for giving. Okay. Card number 1 finished. Okay. Let's grab card number 2, our flip-flops. And we're going to start with just assembling those flip-flops. And then I'm going to walk you through assembling all of the shakers so that we don't lose pieces, so that we're making sure we save enough of the shaker elements for things, and to make sure that we also don't lose track of our acetate pieces. So go ahead and grab just the pieces that you're going to need for your flip-flops first. Okay, so there's our foam pieces. Here are the backs of our flip-flops. And then here are the pieces that go around the foam and the tops. And I'm going to take everything else and set it aside. And now I'm going to open up this container, or this packet, and I'm going to go through and find the flip-flop acetate. And let's see here. There is one piece. And there is the other piece. Now, to look at them, I don't know if you can see it on camera or not, it looks like they're the same, right? But they're not. They're just mirror image for each other. So go ahead and flip one of them over. And just like I told you earlier, go ahead and grab your Post-it note in order to help you keep track of those. We don't want to lose those, and it's easy to do. Keep those where they are easily visible and not going to get lost. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is you're going to take out your pieces of your flip-flop. Just do a little check. Make sure you've got everything lined up properly. You don't want to end up trying to stick this down and you've got it upside down. So go ahead and grab your foam piece. Do a double check to make sure you've got it right. And once you're sure that you have, go ahead and peel off that little liner. And then go ahead and pick up, well, you can do it however you like. Some people like to do it so that you come down right on top of it and line it up like this, but I like to use my fingers to feel the edges. Because if I have my fingers like this, oops, without dropping it, kind of touching the edges, and I've got my fingers on this hand touching the edges, I can pretty much feel things line up. So you do what works best for you. For me, that worked pretty good. Got things pretty well lined up. I'm going to give it a good squeeze here and also a good squeeze like this. Now, of course, if your shakers are fairly large, and some of our shakers with Queen Company are, then you might find that using the finger method won't work, and you really will have to lay it down. And I like to roll onto my cardstock. Now you can see I have a teeny tiny bit where I didn't line it up quite perfect. Certainly good enough. It's nearly down to the bottom here, but there's a tiny bit showing there. I'm just going to take my scissors and trim that. Now it's so small, maybe that wouldn't bother anybody. But for me, since a little bit was showing, just trimmed it off, and now it's not showing at all. Okay, let's do that on the other flip-flop as well. So same thing, double check. Does it fit well? Yes, it does. And let's go ahead and peel that back liner off. I like to leave the foam pieces in the center of my flip-flops. You don't want to pull that part off, just the outside part, but it helps keep the shape of your foam from smushing it all. It keeps it right at the shape it's supposed to be without losing or distorting it all, any of its shape. Okay. And same thing, I still didn't get it quite perfect, so a very small trim from being slightly off, but still certainly good enough. There we go. Okay. So the next thing you're going to do is we didn't pull those liners off the back, so this centerpiece really will pop right out now. And you can see that pretty floral paper in there. This is extra. You can toss it or you can save it for other projects. I like to hold on to it a little bit because sometimes as I'm working, different parts of our kits might want to be popped up. Like for example, here on the barbecue, you're going to want to pop that up so that it can go on top of the shaker. So sometimes it's handy to keep this stuff around. So I'm going to set it over here where I can come back to it later. Same thing with our left flip-flop. Okay, now the fun part. Now is the time for that little spoon I mentioned earlier, and a chance to look at our toppings. Let's see how they're doing. Now I mentioned to you that Houston is very humid today. However, this was not packed in Houston. And so I can see that even though it's humid here, no, they're not doing too bad now that I've opened them, but they still might be staticky for a moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually take a powder tool, and I'm going to just dance around the edges here a little bit and just try to help see if that calms any static that might come later. The other thing that I sometimes do is take this little bottle here that is a very fine mist, and I will, well, there's two ways to do it. You can fine mist your stuff. If you're feeling brave and don't mind the chance of a teeny bit of water on there, you can fine mist your actual shaker base, or after we get these filled, you can fine mist your acetate cover, and that, all of the above, will help calm any static you may end up with. Okay, let's see how these go in. Okay, you can see they're staticky enough that they're clinging to each other. See how they're kind of clumping together? There's a lot of static in that bag. So one thing that sometimes helps too is I'm going to take this and I'm going to actually spray a little bit towards it. Not much got inside, just a tiny bit. But then as I shake it a little bit, that can help calm some of the static right down in the actual bag. So let's see. Definitely a little bit better. But I'm definitely going to want to do something about that static. Well, I don't know. Now they're pouring and they're rolling around rather than clumping to each other, these new ones. Let's see how we're doing at getting these filled. Coming closer. Let's see here. I want them to be filled approximately, no, not quite halfway, just under halfway, because I really like that floral paper and I want it to show. Maybe just a little tiny bit more on this side. Kind of match it. That's probably about right. Now, this particular topping mix is already mixed for you in colors that coordinate with the papers. But if, for example, you want to take out a color, like later on when we get to our barbecue, I might take the pink out. You've noticed in the barbecue card here, there's no real pink in the papers that were chosen for that card. And if it's going to some, a more masculine type of recipient, you might take the pink little pops out of that set. Okay, so let me grab our little acetate covers. I'm going to do the right flip-flop first. Let me show you how I handle that static with this. Usually I'm going to hold it off to the side away from my project so I don't get my whole workspace misted. But for the sake of the video, one time I'm going to do it right in front of you so you can kind of see what I do, which is spray first, and then I'm going to wave that acetate through the mist so that, I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, it probably doesn't show up too well. But it's slightly misted, and I'm just going to kind of give it a little wipe. But that's going to get rid of any static that would have otherwise been on that piece of acetate, and it's going to help calm down any static that could be inside with my little pearlies inside my shaker. Okay, so I removed that top liner, and now I'm going to take this flip-flop shape of acetate, and I'm going to stick it directly down straight on my card. I got it mostly straight. It's a little hard to do on camera because I can't get my head as close to it as I normally would. So you can see I've got a little piece hanging over here, but everything's sealed in. So I'm just going to do the same as I did before and just trim that little bit of overhang off so it doesn't show. Okay. All right, let's do this next one here. So again, my little sticky note is still holding on to my acetate, so it was easy to find. And I'm going to do this off camera this time, but you'll hear me squirt that bottle with, wave this through that mist, do just a little bit of a wipe. And now, when I stick this down, I won't have all my little toppings jumping all over and sticking to the acetate and not cooperating. So, let's see how that goes. Get that stuck down. Yep, better than the last one even. That one's pretty on perfect. And now look, they roll around perfect with no static clinging to each other or clinging to the acetate, thanks to a little bit of static control there. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and take these flip-flop covers, the pretty little decorative ones that cover up our foam, and we'll get some glue on them. Got a little extra right there. Okay, left flip-flop cover. And we'll cover that right down. And then the right flip-flop cover. A little bit of glue here. Cover that. All right. Now we are ready for the little, what'd you call that? Little sandal piece that holds them on. And like I said to you before, these are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you put where. However, the way you aim them makes them look right and left. So for this, you're going to kind of aim it about like that. And the same thing on the other side, you're going to aim it inward, about like that. And then when you glue them down, no one will know they're symmetrical. They look like they were meant to be right or left. But since you're putting them together, it's nice to know you don't have to sort that out. All right. About like that. Oh, I've got a little tear where that lifted up. I'm going to glue that down. Okay. Alrighty. Here we go. Next one, glued down. And now your flip-flops are perfectly put together and all set. Okay. So those turned out great. We're going to take that and we're going to set it right back into the card container that they came from, because we're going to go through and create all of our shakers. So let's go ahead and grab our next card, which is going to be the basket card, the picnic basket card. So here it is for me. So for this one, you're going to need this sheet. Remember this sheet that we set aside and did not punch everything out of? Well, it's time. We're going to start punching these out, okay? The first piece we're going to punch out is this base piece right here. Okay. So once you've got that punched out, go ahead and find your foam piece that matches up with it. And it's symmetrical, so it doesn't actually matter which way you decide to do it. So don't worry about the test shape or testing to see if they line up like the last one. Shouldn't be a problem either way. But go ahead and get that piece lined up and attached to the back of your foam. Give it a little pressure to make sure everything is stuck down on all sides. Then go ahead and pop that center piece out. And again, useful piece that you might use some other time on some other project. So set it aside. We aren't going to need it for this project, or for this card at least, but it can be handy to have for later. Okay, now you're going to grab your little bag of pieces again, or of topping shaker pieces again. And somewhere I left my spoon and I can't remember. Oh, here it is. Found it. I'm sure you never lose your tools while you're working, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and fill up our basket. And we're going to fill it a little less than half full. Now you can fill it however full you want it to be. But I don't want it to fill it too full just because we've got all of those fun little pieces of our picnic that are going to go up on the top. And we don't want to hide, or we don't want it to make it so full that those are kind of blending together. Makes it hard to kind of see all the different pieces. Okay, so here, just like I showed you before, I'm going to grab my acetate cover piece. So let me keep this handy. We're going to need it in just a second. But grab your little piece of acetate covers, flip through it until you find your basket piece, which for me is right here. I'm going to put one of my sticky notes on it while I get this off, because it can disappear on you that fast. Okay, got that. Now, I want all of those little pearlies and pops and shaker toppings stay flat in there. And I'm going to take that cover and I'm going to do my little misting off to the side, wave it through there, that mist, and line this up very carefully and attach it. And now you can see that we are good to go. It's already sealed in there, shaking nicely, no static cling. Got a little bit of that water mist I can wipe off. And then again, I didn't quite line it up as perfectly as I would like. So I'm going to take this and just trim that tiny little piece off. Is that really necessary? No, it's pretty small. But it bothers me a little bit to have it show if it peeks up underneath the little cover we're about to put on it. But there you go, you can see just slightly under half full and shaking around very nicely. Okay, so go back to your brown pieces here. It's finally time to pop out this piece, the cover to our picnic basket. And this one's going to take a moment to pop all the little pieces out, because there's quite a few. That makes it so that we can view all of our little shaker pieces moving around in there. So go ahead and pop all of those little pieces out so that we can easily view all of those cute little toppings. It's another piece that sometimes works better to do from the back, because if the back gets a little messed up like it did just there, it doesn't matter. So I recommend pulling or punching these out from the front towards the back. So if there is any little tears at all, it won't show on the front. Nobody will ever know except for you. So pop all those little pieces out. And there's quite a few of them. Thankfully, it goes fast. And that way, you'll have your perfect little picnic basket look, even though there's holes in it. Okay. A few more here. Almost there. This is the most complicated shape we're going to do today. It has several pieces, but most of our shakers are only a handful of pieces, and they are not that difficult to put together, kind of like our flip-flops. Those were pretty easy too. Okay, so don't worry if the back of it gets a little ugly right where those little chads are. You don't even need to worry about trimming them because they're going to be hidden. Oopsie, there's another one that kind of stuck, but front to back is definitely the right answer for these. Okay, because look at the front. What have I got? One chad right here that can pull off. But this is a nice thick paper, so even those little tiny rips, because I'm going fast, I'm ripping a little bit. Doesn't matter. No one's going to know. Let's go ahead and add our glue and get this glued right down on top of our picnic basket. Don't need to put too much glue in the middle, just enough to keep it from popping upward. I like a fine point glue. If you have a fine point tip, that can make that job a lot easier. Okay. Alrighty. We'll let that Just making sure I got it straight. Looks good. Okay. So that is, oh, and I forgot to mention, leave these spots right here unglued. So please, if you've already followed along, I'm so sorry, pull it up. But you want to be able to tuck a few things underneath there. So make sure that these areas right in here do not get any glue. Okay? Because we have all these extra fun pieces to add to our little basket, and they are going to get tucked in underneath that. Okay. All right, so let's find those fun little pieces. Let's go ahead first. You're going to find your mason jars, of which you have 2 different colors. Now you've got your apple tops. These little gray pieces are the lids to your mason jars. And then here in this set, you've got your little base to your apples. This is your stem. The only part of this that's going to show is the stem. And you're going to need 2 of those. You do have 2 extras here. Don't pop those out unless you've lost one already. Okay. And then we'll come back for the other pieces here in just a second. All right, so let's assemble these little pieces here, these fun little picnic basket accents. So a little glue here, a little glue here, and we'll get our apples together. The apples kind of do have a bigger curve to the top than to the bottom. So if you're trying to figure out which way they will fit best, look at the apple piece, determine which curve is bigger. See if I can get that to focus. Is bigger, and that goes towards the top of your apple. And the smaller curve towards the bottom. The larger curve allows a little bit more of that stem piece to show. Looks a little more like an apple. All right, and then we're going to do something similar on our mason jars. Just a little glue at the very top of your mason jar, and then your little mason jar lid can get glued right to the top of that. As such, I think I actually have mine upside down. There we go. There is a little bit of a curve to the mason jars as well. Not much. Not sure anyone will really notice if it does end up upside down. But if you look for the teeny tiny bit of taper, you can see it tapers out towards the bottom a little tiny bit. Hardly even noticeable. Okay. So, 2 little mason jars glued together. And 2 apples glued together. And if you remember, we also have our loaf of bread. And if you look at our picture here, you can kind of see how we recommend you put it together. But you can do it however looks best to you. I've got the loaf of bread here on the right with the 2 jars, and I've got the 2 apples on the left. The next thing that we're going to need, though, are these fun little tablecloth pieces. So go ahead and grab one of those. And you're going to glue it to the top of your basket here, but we're going to have to work fast. Keep in mind that once we start gluing this down, if you want, you can just put a little dot of glue here. But you don't want to push it so much that it's gluing itself to the acetate, because then we can't tuck anything behind it. So I'm just going to lightly set it on top here so that I can still tuck things underneath it. If you want, you can do this before you even glue it down to the acetate. It's up to you. I find it easier to have something to hold on to while I'm gluing this down, and so I like it on the acetate. But you do want to keep in mind, you want to make sure that it doesn't get glued all the way down flat, or you won't be able to tuck anything in there. Okay. Next, I'm going to grab my loaf of French bread here. And I'm going to tuck it in underneath on this side here. You can see that the purpose in those little tablecloth pieces is to hide the bottom of our items. See how if I stick it down too far, it peeks out and you can see it, and it doesn't look natural. But if I do that quick, and again, I'm going to work quick because I don't want that glue to dry. I want to be able to keep sticking pieces in before they dry. So work fast and get your mason jars in there. There we go. So, okay, but you want to make sure it all stays hidden down behind our little tablecloth piece. Let them poking out. That looks pretty good on that side. If I want to, maybe I'm going to angle that just a little more on that French bread. Okay. Next, let's get our little apples in there. So, green apple, and then red. Tuck it right down in there, behind the tablecloth. Maybe I'm going to poke that up just a little bit more. And then working quick so that one isn't dry yet. We'll get my red one in there. Okay. So there we go. Those are the fillings for our picnic basket there. You can see the shaker pieces move down underneath it quite well. Now, the only thing left is to get our handles and our picnic basket lid pieces on. So, go to your brown paper, punch out this piece, as well as your two handles. There we go. And you'll notice that unless you just need them later, you still have your two bicycle seat and pedal pieces and your two extra apple bases. Those are not needed, so if they're still in that spot, that's just fine. Set them aside. Hopefully you will not need them, but they're there in case you do. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is glue down our picnic basket covers or lids by just putting a little bit of glue. You can see, if you look at this here, you can see not a lot of the lid is actually going to touch the basket, only a little bit. So I put a little bit of glue kind of in that general area, and then I'm going to go find some of that extra picnic basket foam that we used earlier, and I'm going to trim off just a little bit because I want to give those handles a little bit more support. I'm just going to give it a small piece here. So something skinny, about like this, and I'm going to stick that down towards the top of both sides of this picnic basket lid section here. Get it on straight. Okay, one more small piece for the other side. Let's do about like that. We'll get that over here on the other side. Okay, so now you can see I've got my glue, but I've also got my supports in there. I'll move this one over just so it's centered a little bit better, so it won't peek out. Now, I'm not at this time going to remove the liner from this particular piece of foam. I'm just going to stick this down right here. It gets lined up right with the center of your center line on your picnic basket. I'm just going to let it get glued down right on top and attach. These will peel off later when we're attaching it to our card. For right now, though, all we're going to worry about is getting that down flat and straight. Okay, now we have our handles. And the handles are a bit of an optical illusion. They're going to look like they're wrapping right around our picnic basket, but of course they're not really, they just look that way. So you're going to want to make sure that you get this part kind of lined up. So you want to cover up that little bit of the tablecloth peeking out. Oh, it's not quite dry yet. Might give that just a second to dry before we get this glued on. We don't want it moving around on us. Okay. So we're going to put just a little bit of glue here. You don't need much because not much of it's going to touch our basket. Whoops. Well, this part is going to touch it more than others, so we'll go down that way. Probably more than I needed, but that's okay. So you're going to line it right up with that center point on your picnic basket center. Whoops, it wants to stick to my finger more than the basket. Come on. Okay. So it's going to take a minute to get it to cooperate because we've got a lot of layers here. But you can see we get that right in the center. We create the optical illusion of the basket handle wrapping around that cover piece. Now we're going to do that on both sides. Let's get our glue on there. You're going to cover up some of your apples and things when you do this. And that's all right because it makes it look like they're peeking out from inside the basket. There we go. Okay, so that's going to need to dry, obviously. So let's set that back inside our container for that particular card. I'll set this back on top. And that card is now ready to be assembled, including the shakers. So we will move on now. Let's do our barbecue next, which is a fun and easy shaker to assemble. So go ahead and grab your pieces out for your shaker. Here is the foam piece. Here is the cover. And this is the lid. We don't actually need the lid just yet. We need this base piece. So these other parts of your barbecue can just stay in there for now. We'll set that aside. Go ahead and pop out this, or sorry, don't pop out. Peel off this part of the backing of your barbecue piece. And then go ahead and pick up this base piece and line it up with your foam. Once you've got it on there, go ahead and give it a good tight squeeze and press to make sure that it is secured very well. And then we can go ahead and pop the centerpiece out here. All right, now we have our little well, shaker well to fill. So let's grab our toppings with our little scooper. And this one is not a very big shaker piece. It doesn't need a whole lot. Let's go ahead and fill it about like that though. And remember how I mentioned earlier that maybe you wouldn't want all of the pinks in this particular card? Well, I'm going to use a little wax tool, a wax tips tool, to go ahead and pull out some pink ones. Now, obviously, you could just pour them into your hand, and then you'd be able to sort out the pinks too. But for me, this is simple and easier, since it makes it pretty easy to have a wax tip tool to target just the pinks. Like that. Perfect. I collect my little pinks and we'll pour them back into the bag, because they are lovely in most cards, but for this card, I'm going to leave them out. Okay. Back in the bag you go. Perfect. Okay. All right, so you can see it really just doesn't use very many shaker toppings for this. It's pretty easy to just have a little bit in there and still get the point across. So next, back to our baggie, still marked by our sticky note. Let's go ahead and dive in here and pull out the acetate cover for that shape, which is this one. Put my sticky note on it so I don't lose it in the next step, in the next 2 seconds here. But as I pull off this liner, it's amazing how often that little piece of acetate wants to go missing. So there we go. Liner is off. Piece of acetate is found. Off camera, I am misting and pushing that through. Little wipe off. And then stick it right down on top of my shaker. There we go. And my little pieces shake around perfectly. And I can take my cover, my decorative cover piece of our little barbecue here with its little handles on the side, and get that glued on top. Okay, a little bit of glue seeped out on the corner there, but that's all right. A little tiny bit of catching my finger there. I'll take care of that. All right. Now let's set that back into its container to dry, and we'll come back to that card after we get all the rest of our shakers assembled. Okay, that one's nice and easy. I like that one. Okay, now for our next card, which is the hot air balloon, let's pull those pieces out. And let's go in here and dig out the hot air balloon pieces, for which you need these pieces. The backer, the cover, as well as this little piece here, which we will add on right now because they're just so little we don't want them to get lost. So take your backer and your foam piece, pull off that liner, and then take and line up the edges of this. See how I haven't quite pushed it down yet? I'm just using my fingers to kind of make sure it's lined up the way it needs to be. I can kind of feel the edges and see if they are about right or not. And they are about right. So a good press to secure everything. Perfect. Okay. Now let's pop out that centerpiece. All right. Now let's hunt down our liner again, which is still in our little baggie. Okay, there it is. Here is my sticky note on my acetate cover. And now let's pull back that top liner, set it aside, and oh, I forgot to fill. Sorry, if you're still not caught up to me yet, leave that liner on. It makes it easier to fill if you don't pull the liner off, but not impossible. If you pulled it off like I did, it's okay. But let's get it filled up first. Lots of cute colors in this card. But again, you might notice in the papers that we're using, there aren't any pinks. So you can decide here if you want to leave them or pull them out. Okay. Let's see. I think I'm going to leave mine. Works for me to have that color there. All right. Acetate cover. Pull off my sticky note. Mist off to the side and wave my acetate liner through that mist. Give it just a little wipe off so it's not too much water on there. And then, let's see if I can get that lined up just right. All right, perfect. Looks great. Now you can see because of that misting, they roll around great. Perfect. Okay, let's glue our liner, or sorry, our decorative cover on top of our liner. Don't need too much in the middle here, just enough to keep them from popping upward. Okay. And we'll take that and glue that on here. Looks good. Okay. This is one more place where we're going to use a little bit of that extra foam. I'm just going to take a small amount that I will cut off of the back or the extra foam from the hot air balloon. I'm just going to trim it down to be small enough to fit on the basket piece. Trim that excess away. Trim the excess away on this side. So it's just a small little piece. Nothing major is needed here, but just enough to keep it at the same level as the rest of the balloon. Now, do you need to do that? No, you couldn't. You could, once we get to the card, you could glue that straight down onto your card like that. But for me personally, I just like it up there a little higher, so choice is yours. But I like it up a little bit. Now I'm just going to put a small dot on the two tops of that particular piece of the balloon. And then I'm going to take these and glue it right on there just a little bit. It's okay if the glue smooshes out, because we're about to put a teeny little cover on there. Okay, about like that. Let that dry just for a second. And then this little gray piece right here is the very bottom part of our balloon. We're going to take that and glue it just to where these overlap. We're going to let it cover up the very bottom of that green as well as where we attached the basket. See if I can kind of glide it into place here. A little bit of glue right here too. I get glue on my fingers all the time while I'm working. And I can see I had a little bit of glue smoosh out here. And I'm going to just carefully wipe it away. Here we go. So hot air balloon complete. Okay. Set it back in its container. We only have one more set of shakers to assemble, and that is for our bicycle. Here we go. Okay. So this bicycle has two shakers in it because of the two wheels being shakers. So let's take out our two wheel pieces that are the base. And we'll start with that. Keep in mind that you want this kind of slightly grayish color and not the pure white. So make sure that your slightly grayish color is up. Okay. Peel off the backer, or the liner on the back of that foam. And then you're going to take, I like circles. Circles are so easy to line up. Take this, line it up, smoosh it together. Like I said, circles are so easy to line up, especially small ones. There's that one. Now let's do the second one here. Take that liner, pull it off. All right, perfect. And get that other circle lined up. Great. Again, with both of them, check to make sure you're using the slightly gray side and not the more white one. Okay. Oops, going to roll away on me. Okay, so pull off or pull out the center pieces of that foam and then save that foam for some other project. Same thing here. Get that 2 wheels done. Okay, let's find our shaker toppings. You can see we still have plenty left. Wendy was very generous and gave you quite a few fun toppings in this little bag. Plenty enough for our projects here. And some small scoops. These aren't very big shakers, but you do have 2 of them. Oh, look at that static. It's even clinging to the spoon there. Okay. Not like that, maybe. Maybe just a little more on that side, maybe. Yeah, about like that. Okay. We'll seal that back up. Okay. Now, in your baggie, you should have 2 little circle pieces left of the acetate. Go ahead and pull those out. There they are. And grab your sticky note. Stick those down so they do not get lost, because there's 2 of them now. There's twice as much time for them to get go on a little adventure together if we don't have them well accounted for. So let's do our first circle. I'm going to pull that one up. Grab my 1 circle, leave that one easy to see. Mist, so that we can control that little bit of static, and then we'll get that cover lined up. Looks great. Static is tamed. All right, second piece of acetate. There we go. Wave it through the mist. Perfect. Okay, mush that down to make it easier to get it lined up. Perfect. All right. Oh, kind of got off center there. Oh, because I forgot to take the liner off. Here we go. No wonder it won't stick. All right, liner is off. There we go. And now, cover is on. Perfect. Okay. Now, in order to put these together, the next piece you're going to need is actually your bicycle spokes. So go ahead and take those and get those glued on. Now when you're gluing to acetate, you'll find that a little bit smooshes out easily because it doesn't have a whole lot to absorb it. So light touch, you can see this is really not very dimensional. My glue, a light touch is helpful. Okay. And make sure, of course, that you're putting the glue on the white side and the gray side is showing. There we go. First set of spokes, and our second set of spokes. Perfect. Okay, get that one glued on. You'll see that it reaches the edges of your foam on all sides, so it's pretty easy to center. You just want to make sure it lines up with the edges. Okay, and then underneath the basket pieces, I've got my 2 wheels. Again, you have kind of a white side. I'm not sure how well it's showing up on camera, but you have a darker side too. So make sure that you've got the same color that should be showing in the center of your wheel there. A little bit of a light grayish color, really light, super light gray. But you want to make sure you get the same color on both wheels showing upward. If you want it to look like the example sheet, you're going to want that really light gray color. Okay. These are white wheels because they are reminiscent of a 1950s style like white wheel tire. We went for a more old-fashioned look on the bicycle instead of a more modern look. Just seemed more playful and fun for this particular style of kit. Okay, but of course if you've got a bicyclist in the family that you want to do a more modern style for, probably a little bit of trimming or different colors. If you pick up the full Summer Lovin kit and decide to cut your own shapes with your own papers, there's quite a bit of adaptation you could do that would make it so that you could customize to be more of a modern style bike. And one thing you'll note too, especially with the bicycle, in order to do this perforated, pre-cut kit for you, we had to make some minor adjustments to some of the shapes in order for them to be simpler and easier for the manufacturer. The dies are slightly more intricate looking and more detailed in the official Summer Lovin regular full kit. The bicycle pieces aren't quite as thick and bulky, and the spokes, I think there's an additional spoke there. The leaves have some detailing in them, and they're a little bit more, what's the right word? They're cut a little bit differently. We have some limitations in the way that these work for these creative card kits that we have to work around with these, but we think they still turn out really cute. So there's your bicycle wheels. Go ahead and set them back where they came from. And we are now done with all the shaker assemblies. So we can go back to our flip-flop card and get ready to start gluing that one all together. So let's pull out our little shaker pieces, actually all of the pieces, to our card making. We'll start, well, I'll leave most of them in there for now, but we'll start with our card base. And I'm going to pull our little instruction sheet over, our little example sheet. And you can see that the first piece we're going to need is that fun aqua piece right here, or turquoise piece right here. Let's get that glued down. As our background piece. Now, in case you were wondering, these pieces here are squares, so it doesn't matter if you put it this way or this way. You can put it however you think looks best. And I'm going to use that creative sheet as a guide to kind of get an idea for how far up it should be. That looks about right to me. It's pretty much dead middle for this particular card. Yep, looks right to me. Okay, then the next piece we're going to need is this nice big rounded rectangle. One of my favorite new pieces in the foundation dies, since it is just a very versatile, fun piece. And with those nice rounded edges, it just adds a little bit of whimsy or softness to a card. I really like it. Okay. And it also is pretty much just centered top to bottom on that card. It might be just slightly closer to the top than the bottom, but centered is about right. Okay. All right, that is on there nicely. Okay, next up is our little floral border piece along the bottom, our little fun scalloped border piece. We'll get that glued across the bottom there. It is just not quite to the bottom of this piece here. This little, it doesn't quite go below the white rounded rectangle. It goes right up to about the bottom of it though. Push that up just a touch. Okay, perfect. Looks good. Okay, next, you're going to take one of these striped pieces and the red piece, the red border pieces. Because what we're going to do is we're going to glue the red border piece on top of this striped piece so that just part of it is peeking out. So let's do that first before we stick it down on the card. It's just kind of easier for me at least to place it once I've got these two pieces together the way that I want. So you can see there isn't a whole lot of that striped piece peeking out. Just a hint of it. Just a way to give it a little extra bit of visual interest. So there we go. Those are glued together pretty nicely. And now you can glue those across the top of that scalloped border piece. Okay. So they're going to cover up the top of that piece by quite a bit, but you're going to make sure all of your scalloped pieces show real good there. Let's see. I'll line that up with my mat just to help me make sure I get these about even on there, which looks good. You can see that there's just that little bit of dimension there that you can see from the shadows. Maybe, hopefully it comes across on camera as well as it's coming across here, but it's fun. It gives it a little bit of a layered look that is pretty. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and do our little banner up in the corner, our little sentiment banner. I am going to, boy, I have to make a decision now. Hope your day is flippin' awesome. I'm going to do sending sunshine your way, I think. Well, yeah, yes, let's go with that. Hard to pick. A birthday or a congrats card or some other special day card or a kind of a thinking of you card. Toss up for me, hard to choose. All right, so now this fun little striped piece goes not quite up to the top of our rounded rectangle, not quite all the way up. Let me bring it in closer, you can kind of see. It goes right up in that corner, but it doesn't quite cover the very top of that. Now, for this fun little sentiment, I am just going to pop it up with some foam tape so that it has a little bit of height dimension, which is nice because we're about to put those flip-flops on, and those flip-flops have a lot of dimension. So this just makes it so that they're not kind of the only item that's sticking up, and it helps bring a little bit more, just what's the right word? A little bit more of the things that are the same. What is the word? Can't think of it. Consistent. It'll look a little more consistent that way. There we go. Okay, so let's line that up right at the edge. Oh, but it's a little too tall, I think. So I kind of want it to be centered in the middle. Let me raise it up so I can see where the middle is. Yep. About like that. Give or take. Okay, cute. Sending sunshine your way. Got it. Next, let's get our flip-flops on there. And you can kind of arrange them however you think looks best. Just make sure that you save room here. We're about to put this flower down here, and it has quite a bit going on with it. So maybe I'll kind of arrange the pieces so that I can kind of see how I want this to look once I'm ready to add it. So you can see how big it is. I'm actually going to pop mine up a little bit. It's actually going to rest a little bit on that flip-flop. I'm going to cover up the very edge of it just a little bit. Let's see here. There we go, yep. So I'm going to move this over just a little bit, move this up just a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and glue our flip-flops on. Okay. Right flip-flop. Right about here. Looks good. And our second flip-flop. Perfect. Let's get it right next to it. Right about there, I think. Looks good. Okay, and now our little leaves, our little foliage here behind our flower. Get that one glued on in the space that we saved for it. Same thing here. Okay. And right about there. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to pull a piece of that leftover foam out. Matter of fact, the bicycle wheels are just about perfect. Maybe just a little bit too big. Let's go ahead and cut a piece off from our basket that we were already cutting up earlier. Cut out some support for behind that flower. Perfect. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to let it overlap just a little. That's why I didn't want to use that rounded piece or whatever. I want to make sure I have a little bit of space here so it can overlap our flip-flop just a touch. And there we go. We can let it stick down just a bit. Now, again, I've already got enough dimension going on here with the flower, so this time I'm probably just going to glue these layers down flat. You can pop them up if you want, a little bit of dimension, but this time I'm probably not going to, just because we've already got so much dimension going on there. If you wanted to, you could even move your flip-flops over a little bit and not have your flower overlap. It's kind of up to you and what you think looks best there. I kind of like it like that. Okay. So there is our flower finished. And that is 2 cards all glued together, just waiting their bling at the end. And I'm going to put this little extra piece here in my little extra pile that I've got. Oops, sorry, going on up here. Keep hitting that poor camera with the microphone that I'm wearing. Okay, so there we go. All finished. Just going to add the bling at the end. Okay, next card is going to be our picnic basket card. Let's get that one complete. Here we are. There is our card. And the first piece we're going to need is our little notebook, our red notebook paper. Let's go ahead and glue it down right along the left side of the card here. And it's going to be not quite center, but very close to the left edge. It's going to be a little bit closer to the bottom than the top. Not a lot, just a little bit. Right about there, but pretty close to that left edge though. Perfect. Okay, now our large rectangle, our polka dotted large rectangle. Let's get that one glued down nicely. Get our glue dotted out here. Okay. Now it is not going to be centered, so don't try to center it. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have a good amount of that notebook paper showing, but not all of it. And this is going to come down pretty close to the left, to the right edge, and fairly close actually to the bottom as well. So let's see how it looks, see if we got it on straight. It looks pretty straight. Okay. Right there. All right, close enough. Okay. Next, go ahead and find your pre-printed piece that says sending you a basket of thanks. Now, should you want to do something different, one of the options that you could do is you could use this Oh Happy Day piece and cover up what's already printed there. So if you have something else in mind, feel free to think about that piece there and change the sentiment up if you wish. But we'll do that a little later if you want. I wouldn't do it in this step quite yet. All right, let's get it glued down though. Okay, just enough glue to hold it tight and give us enough glue to also float on for a second or two if we need to reposition. Okay, again, not quite center. It's going to go a little bit more to the right than it is to the center, and a little bit closer to the bottom than to the top. And I'd say there looks about perfect. And hopefully straight. Perfect. Okay. Now, just like we did on our flip-flop card, we've got one piece poking out kind of behind the other piece, these little border pieces. So I'm going to take the blue piece first, add my little line of glue here, and then take the striped piece and layer it on top of the blue so that just a hint of that blue or aqua is peeking out here. Keep seeing all this glue on my fingernail. I always have gluey fingers when I'm working. Usually on top or on the fingernails though, not usually on the places where they are going to cause a problem. Okay, that looks good to me. Now let's take this piece and we'll get it glued on across the bottom of our card here. It's going to kind of create a little landing spot or home for our picnic basket. And it's going to go pretty close to the bottom of that two-corner rounded reptile piece. Oh boy. I think we've been crafting for a while now. My brain is saying things it doesn't mean. Okay. There we go. Okay, right across the bottom with just a hint of that white piece showing up underneath. And I probably could have even come up a little bit higher on that striped piece, but it works. Okay, now just like we did with the flip-flop card, let's take our floral pieces and lay them out to help us find the proper placement for our basket. Because we want some of that fun red to pop out on the left. We don't want to bury it. But we do, of course, need room for our picnic basket here. And then we also, of course, need to save room for this little banner piece that goes up in the corner. Help us kind of determine the height of things here. This is going to go down a little lower. Okay. About like that is where I want the basket. And then there's enough room, just barely enough room on the sides here for these little leaf pieces. So that looks pretty good. Maybe just a little lower. Yeah, about like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and glue this banner piece down here, now that I kind of know where I want it. And it's going to go right in here. There we go. Perfect, okay. And then these two pieces here. Well, you know what, let's do the basket first. I'm going to leave these where they're at. I'm going to get the basket on there where I want it. These pieces over here like this. That way, I make sure I save the right amount of room for those leaf pieces to fit, because it's a bit of a tight fit. But if you're paying attention to the placement of those leaves, it won't be difficult. Okay, and in this step, we're also going to take off the liner on that foam tape too, so that we have the proper amount of support underneath that. And you know what I'm going to do too? We've got that bread sticking up. Let's give it just a little piece of support too, just to kind of make sure everything stays uncrushed here. If you really want, you can go through and add a couple of pieces of foam to the back of the handles as well, but I think I'm okay. I'm going to go ahead and see about the placement right about here, it looks like. Okay, maybe over just a little bit more to the right. You're basically wanting to center it on that white piece. There's behind it. Keep it straight. Okay, I like that. We'll press everything down. Great. Okay, now let's add our leaves on here. And then our flowers. And we will have yet another card all complete. Which is great. We're really, once you get those shakers made and everything's all sorted, really assembling each card is really easy. In fact, it'd be easy to say, okay, you know, I've got everything sorted, shakers are made. I'm just going to keep each pile bagged up and ready for use some future day. So if you were just wanting to divide it up into different days of work, it would be easy to go ahead and say, okay, this is a good stopping point. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing we did before, which is pop up one of these flowers in the corner so it can kind of overlap our picnic basket just a touch, which it also kind of shows in the example paper, in the instruction paper. And because we're about to put another flower right in the middle of this blue aqua flower, it doesn't matter if a little bit of the foam is showing in this step, because we're about to cover that spot up. Okay, perfect. And then, I keep saying perfect, but it is. Isn't it cute and perfect? Love it. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this piece here put right in the center of all of this. Let's see here. It's cute with the little polka dots on the flower. Love polka dotted flowers. Okay, that is done. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to do a little bit of a pop-up here just to kind of get it so it's not flat, whereas these are all raised. But I'm not going to go quite as tall as the other one. I'm going to use a little piece of my slightly thinner foam tape. So it's raised up, but not quite as high as the others. The reason for that being, a lot of it is already really high on this card. I don't want it to be flat, but I also don't want to keep adding so much of the same height and dimension when it's already so high up. Okay, so right about there for that flower. And then we've got that little red center, which I'm just going to glue right on. Okay, about here. All right, and that is the last step on this card other than the bling, which we will do all together at the very end. Okay, perfect. All right, our next card is our barbecue, which is a fun little card. Really like the very long, wide banner on this card. Let's get that one assembled. That is the first step on this card. That long striped banner is just fun and pretty. So we'll add it to the left of this card, or the left side of this card. I think my glue has just developed another little bit of a clog, so I'm going to grab my pin over here and just push that clog a little further out of the way. They say that this glue is supposed to not clog with that tip, but still does from time to time. There we go. Coming out better now. Sometimes when this glue clogs up, I have to go open it and push a pin through from the reverse side. And that takes care of it for a good while. Okay, got our banner piece on, which makes a great little home for kind of the rest of the card. Got a little spot of glue there, but that's okay. All right, next, our aqua notebook paper edge piece, which goes not quite towards the center, a little bit more towards the bottom than the top, and pretty close to the edge of that banner, pretty close to the left edge of that banner piece. Okay, good. And now our polka dot paper. Oops. Let's get it all dotted with glue and added on top of it. It's such a fun card. I love the barbecue. Many good memories of a family barbecue at our house. Okay, we'll scooch it over just a bit. We tend to roast hot dogs, our barbecues, which is always fun. And one of my son's favorite foods. He can go through and eat 4, 5, 6, sometimes hot dogs. He loves hot dogs. One of my sons. Okay. Okay, and then the next piece we're going to need is this fun little white, great little edges on this rectangle. I love how not only do you have the little rounded sides, but then you also have the little cut off corners. Makes for a fun little decorative piece here. Okay. Get it added here. And it's going to go just about to the middle of the card. And maybe over just to the right a little bit. Making a great little home for our shaker here. Now, you know, maybe I should have mentioned this towards the beginning, but if you would like, if you're doing this kit again, if you purchase the dies and the full kit, it can be fun to do some embossing. On the original examples that I made of these sets, I did do some embossing on the background cardstock or sometimes on the little holding pieces to help separate some of the white from white on the few places where they're kind of close together there. It can be kind of a fun touch to add a little extra interest. All right, so the next step we have is to add our little sentiment across the bottom, followed by that little green circle on top. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go ahead and glue the circle first, but I'm going to leave a little bit of edge here that is not glued to make it a little easier to slip that circle, or that, that sentiment piece right underneath it. So I want to be able to get it underneath without too much trouble there. Let's see, let's move it over just a bit more. That looks about right to me. Okay. And now our sentiment piece, we can kind of slide underneath that spot that we saved on the green circle. Okay. About here. Very good. That looks right to me. Okay. All right. Next, let's get our barbecue up there. So start by grabbing the base of your barbecue. We can dot that glue on there. And then we're going to add it just above our sentiment. And a little tiny piece of that barbecue is going to rest on that green circle. Okay, right there. And you really want it pretty close to your sentiment because there's not a lot of room for the barbecue up top if you don't get it kind of close to it. Okay. Now, the actual shaker part of our barbecue. Let's get that added on. you can see the bottom circle of this piece matches up with the bottom circle of this piece, making it pretty easy to figure out just where that should fit, where it should lay on the card. Okay, and now in this next step, we're going to need a little bit more of that leftover foam. And, you know, if you're using the barbecue piece, you can see that it matches it pretty good. Now we are going to overlap a little bit, and so I'm going to trim this corner just a touch so that we can overlap without too much trouble here. So let me make sure I cut the right corner. I've been known to cut the wrong corner before, which I did. Other corner. But I guess it doesn't matter because I'm just going to flip it over, right? Yes. Maybe I did cut the right corner, but I turned it over and, yep, messed myself up. Okay. So we'll make sure we put it on like this. Pull the backer off that. Add this to the center piece here. We'll pull that off. And then I'm going to put just a little dot of glue on this edge so that when we overlap, it'll help glue it right to that piece of the barbecue. And you can kind of decide how open you want your barbecue to be. I think this looks about right to me. Out like that. Okay, there we go. Simple shaker, kind of nice. Sometimes when I do a card that's maybe a little more on the masculine side, it's nice to keep it simple. It still is a fun shaker, but it isn't overly embellished. Now we're about to add a bunch of stars, but stars can be great for a guyish type card. And for a girl card, but they work well for this particular card, depending on who your recipient is. My mom was the main person that used to grill in the family I grew up in, but in my current family, it's more likely to be my kids or my husband. So, could be for either one. All right, so let's sort out our little pieces here. We've got a little red circle that goes about here, and we've got some star pieces that go here. And then on this side, we've got a little green circle that goes here and a nice red star that goes on top of that. I just want to kind of look at my placement, make sure everything fits. I think this is looking pretty good here. Okay, now I am going to use a little bit of foam tape to pop up some of these stars so I can kind of even out some of the dimension for all of the, you know, get the heights a little bit more. What's the word? I keep losing my words. I think these need to be a tiny bit smaller. Get those heights a little bit more consistent. There we go. So let's get these stars built up. They can go on top of each other here. Will that fit? No, I'm going to trim that foam piece down just a little bit more. And then we'll have those larger stars will also be popped up. So that'll give us a height that's kind of close to the height of the actual barbecue shaker height. There we go. But we'll glue the circles down straight. They don't need to be popped up. Might give us too much height. Okay, so let me move that piece. And let's get, okay, the green I forgot. That's already glued down. Let's glue this other green circle down. And that looks good right about here. And now, one more piece of foam tape on that star. And it will be ready for its new permanent home. There we go. And make sure I turn it just enough that you don't want that edge of the star come off your card. There we go. And now this other red circle, just to the top there. Right up here about, maybe down just a little. Okay. Right about there. And then our big aqua star. Right about here, followed by its little polka dot star. Now keep in mind that you've got other shapes in your extras pile. Here's my extra pile up here. there's other stars, other colors, other stripes and patterns. So if you decide that you like something different, feel free to grab something different with these little embellishments. You've got extras for a reason, which is to help you have a choice if you decide that you want it to look a little different. If you say, I've already got polka dots here, I want stripes over there, then by all means grab one of those other stars and make it your own and do it your way. When I was teaching classes for years at a store, a long time ago, I had quite a few customers that liked to have it exactly like the picture, make it look just so. But then I've always had a couple of brave other crafters who came in there and really had fun making it your own. So with this kit, you can do it both ways, whichever way you like. Okay, there is our barbecue card. Only thing it needs is bling, which we will do in just a little bit. Next, let's pull up our hot air balloon card and get it put together. Another fun card with some fun stars on it. And the first layer on this card is actually 3 pieces. It's our fun little set of pattern papers that are going to make their little home here on this card. So the bottom layer is the polka dots, and the next layer up is the stripes, and the next layer up from that is the flowers. So I'm going to kind of space them out a little bit because they're not too close together. You know, you're looking at this paper here, your example kit, and they look pretty close together, but that's because it's reduced in size. It's not a full-size paper there. So let's go ahead and make sure we get these close together, but not too close together. Should be about like that, I think. Yep, I like that. Okay. So, time for some more glue. Get this all set for our background. I really like the idea of 3 very similar but contrasting pattern papers close to each other. That's just something that I've always enjoyed the look of. Makes for a fun visual interest in the background. I like how we have a foundation set 8, that has, I believe it's 8, that has a set of 3 circles in a row and 3, there's one also that has 3 squares in a row. And that's such a fun one to fill with papers kind of similar to this. They're similar to each other but different. That can make a very fun look. Okay, and this one about here. Try to get it straight and lined up with the edges. Down just a touch. Okay, last one of these 3 pieces of pattern paper. And then we'll be ready to kind of build up our little home for our cute little hot air balloon. Okay, so now the floral paper at the top. Kind of want to keep the distances between my 2 papers equal. Want the gaps to be the same. Okay. Very good. Okay, next is this nice red paper here. Let's go ahead and get it glued down. And it's going to be pretty much centered on this card. I think it's just a little bit closer to the top than it is to the bottom, but not by a lot. Almost centered. Is that about right? Be down just a little bit. Okay. And now our big wide banner, it's actually the same banner shape that we used on our barbecue card, that is in the stripes on that card, is now going to be the very center home spot for this fun little hot air balloon on this card. Like I said, a very fun and versatile shape. We have other large banner pieces in the foundation dies, but not quite as long and skinny as this one. I really enjoy this, the potential for all kinds of designs we can do with this particular shape. Okay. Get that lined up, centered across that red piece. Looking good. Okay, now next let's get our sentiment down there at the bottom. That'll help us with the placement of our hot air balloon. And for this one, I am going to use pop dots again on both pieces because that'll help us kind of match the height of that balloon. Feel free to just plain glue if you like, but for me, I think we're going to go ahead and get that dimension on there underneath our sentiment. Hot air balloon is a fun way to send several different messages about lifting or celebrating. Definitely lots of fun versatility in the hot air balloon shape for cards. All right, one more piece of foam tape on this one. And then let's get a little bit on this bottom sentiment. Then after we glue this one together, we're really down to just that last bicycle piece, or bicycle card. And we'll be just about finished, which is amazing. Once you get certain parts done, it really comes together pretty fast. I love that you can take 2.5 hours and knock out 6 cards. That's really quite something. Okay, so this piece gets added just above the bottom of the red piece. And it is centered across the card, about like that. And it makes a nice little home for our sentiment to rest on and be set apart from the background because you've got that nice little pop of color. These pieces, these sentiment pieces in these foundation dies were designed just for this purpose, to work together and be a fun way to offset and feature your sentiments with that little bit of a background color underneath them. There we go. Okay. So now we know exactly where we need to place our hot air balloon so that we've got room on the card for everything else. Right about there. And then just before we do that, I'm going to play around with the placement of these star pieces, or circles that the stars are going to go on. Let's see. This one's actually about here. It shows it overlapping, but I might just leave it flat like that. And then we also have this star down here with its red center. And again, you've got extra spare pieces, so should you decide you want to do it a little bit differently, go look at the other pieces that you have left over and you can change it up. But this looks great. Let's grab that foam tape. And again, I'm going to add that little hint of dimension underneath my pieces here by using that foam tape. And again, absolutely optional. For some of you, I know you prefer the flatter the card the better, especially if you are attempting to mail it. Sometimes that can help reduce bulk and weight and make it easier and cheaper to mail. Although we have found that it kind of depends on your post office. Some post office workers are more than happy to send a shaker card through the mail with a first class stamp, and some are not. And I wish it was more consistent because it doesn't seem to follow any kind of rhyme or reason that I can figure out. But I know some of you are lucky enough to have postal workers that are very helpful. And if you do, enjoy and be grateful. Okay. And go there. And then let's use these to pop these up. Okay. We'll get these placed on just like so. See, right about, where do I want you? Right about here, I think. Okay. Now this one over here. See, I want that out here. This one right about here, I think. Okay. I think I'll go ahead and glue this down since we know kind of where it needs to be at now. We've already made space for all of our embellishment stars. Okay. Here we go. Right up top. Okay. Looking just right. And our final star, and then this card is also complete. Add that foam tape to the back. It'll have the same dimension as the other stars. And then a small piece here as well. On this little star. Oh, that still might be too big. Let's go just a little smaller. This piece maybe. All right. Final pieces. Our second to last card. Here we go. Striped star and red star. Okay. Very fun. Okay. Got our stack of cards over here, and there's only one left to add. So let's go ahead and bring over the bicycle card as our final one. We're in the home stretch now. Okay. Let's go ahead and pull out some of our pieces here to our bicycle. I think we're going to go ahead and let's first go ahead and finish assembling the bicycle altogether. So go ahead and take your wheels, and you'll see that you have a nice little round area that makes it really easy to know right where the wheels need to go. You just glue the wheels right down on that area. Make sure that your little pieces of the bicycle are showing over here so it doesn't look like they're just floating there without being part of the bicycle. Oops. And we'll get that all glued down perfectly here. There we are. Got those fun retro style fenders off the back of your bicycle there. Make sure that we have those showing properly. Right, and then you just have your extra little pieces here on your bike. You got the basket piece. And you can see that this outline shows you exactly where that basket piece should go. It just gets attached right there on the front of the bike. And then you have your seat right here. And it just goes just like this. And then the very last piece to add is your pedal piece. And remember, if it ran away, there is an extra on your brown sheet right here. You've got extra pieces right here. If any of those ran away on you, that's where you go to find them. And it just goes right down here on this little piece right here. Okay. And now your bicycle is all assembled and ready to be added to the card. And speaking of, let's go ahead and get the card started with, let's see, we need these two pieces first. We've got our green notebook paper that again is just going to go happily on the left-hand side of the card. You've noticed a trend with that. It just seems like it adds that fun little bit of texture and interest by having that fun edge. And I've liked that on the edge here, on this left edge a lot for this particular set of cards. Okay. One piece, now this floral piece here. And it overlaps that green piece by quite a bit, but not, it doesn't get lined up completely to the top though. Okay, pardon me. Okay, next we have our white piece here with its two rounded edges, two rounded corners. And it will overlap that floral piece just a bit. Let it peek out from behind it. Okay. About here, I think. Nice. Nice and straight, good. And then just like on our hot air balloon, this piece, this shape, was also designed to work with our sentiment strips to give it a nice little pretty home behind there. And because it's also a bit of an anchor piece or a home piece for our bicycle, it's going to get glued on flat. Whereas with the hot air balloon, we use some foam tape to raise it up. This time, we're going to glue it on very straight and flat there. Maybe even over just a bit more. Don't need it to cover up too much of the green there. But yes, about like that. Okay. And then, same thing. Now this we can pop up because we do have the flower on it, but we don't have anything else on top of it. So let's go ahead and grab that foam tape again to give it that little pop of dimension. And we'll get that one raised up just a little bit, and then we'll be able to know exactly where to add our little bicycle on this card. I think one more piece of foam tape should do it there. Should be enough to keep it stable. We'll peel these off and get this one added, and it will be our final sentiment added. We really are in the home stretch now. Okay, so right across the middle there. And centered on that pretty aqua piece, maybe to the right, just a touch more. Yes, centered. Okay. Did I get it centered? I think this side needs to come down just a little bit. But if I pull it up before I really give it a push, I can usually get that foam tape up again just long enough to reposition it. Okay. Good. Okay. All right, let's get our bicycle down. It is going to live right there, just overlapping that little aqua piece a bit. And then we have our last little set of flowers here. We have this red one, which is just going to kind of live right there next to our sentiment. And then these are the last of our leaves and pieces that are kind of going to call themselves home right here in this little corner here. Spread them out a bit. Yep. Okay, that's perfect. Let's get foam tape again. I love my foam tape. Now you can see why I go through it all so quickly, right? I use it a lot. And we'll get that piece layered up with this fun little flower. Looks about right. And then we can have this there. Okay, and I won't pull that off quite yet. It isn't quite centered. Let's try that one more time. It's a little closer. Close enough, at least. And then this is just going to get glued down. Since we already have some dimension there, this flower can just get glued straight onto our sentiment piece. And then I'll be able to arrange where I want my bicycle. Okay, so now the bicycle gets added. Just get glue all over for it. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere on us. Because this is a bicycle that is a stationary bicycle. At least that's how I want it to be on this card. Okay. All right. A little perfect home for it right here. Oh, I want to make sure I get the edge of that bicycle all the way on the card. Which means I got a little glue right there, but we can easily get that out of the way. I have like a little glue eraser and stuff, but over the years I've just found it simpler to keep my fingers handy and give my hands a good wash at the end. Okay. All right. Let's finish up our flowers, and then we will have another finished card here. Wonderful. Okay, this goes about here. Aim it down just a bit, just a little bit. Okay. Now this one over here. We'll aim it down to fill this little area, about like that. And then we'll peel off the back of our foam tape. And that's going to live, Let's move it over just a little bit. About right. Yeah. I don't quite like that. Yes, right there. Okay. All right. There we go. Now we have all 6 of our cards all assembled and just missing the one last final touch, which is the bling. So let's go open our bling packet. All right, I'm going to clear myself some space as we get ready to add our bling here in our final step. You can see on the cover sheet here, on the instruction sheet, I've kind of gone and showed you ways that you could do it. Now, of course, feel free to use your own creativity and add it however you like, but you do have enough pieces of bling to add it the way I showed you if you want. So the main thing for me is that you want to make sure you have enough of the large pieces to go in the middle of your flowers. That's kind of, to me at least, the final step that really needs to happen, is that you can get those flowers with their centers, because they just don't look quite right to me unless they actually have, oh, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and change this so that I can get, I want that to be a slightly different color. This bicycle card, if you look at the instruction sheet, actually shows a pink one there, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. Would look just fine with the blue, but I'm going to go ahead and just follow the examples that I put on there. So we've got pink up there, we've got another little pink one right here, and a little blue one. Let's see, a little kind of an aqua blue one here, medium sized. And we'll just finish kind of blinging out this little area right here. And then this flower, of course, needs to be completed here. And we'll add another little embellishment here. And let's see, one right here. And a little pink one over there too. So I'm just kind of following what's on the instruction sheet, so that it just has that little chance to consistently use those things, those little bling, epoxy bling, or not bling, epoxy dots. There we go. But there you go. Now that card is complete. Okay, and let's do hot air balloon next. Let's see. A couple of little pieces over by this star could be good. Let's see, right there maybe. Be up just a little. There we go. After I get them right where I want, a little firm push usually will get them to cooperate and stay put. Okay, and then over here, let's do another little piece of bling here. Another little one right here. And then let's try just down here, kind of by this star too, I think. Maybe right here, up a little bit maybe. And over here maybe. There we go. Okay. There's that card all finished. Okay, barbecue. Let's put a few up here just to kind of keep this corner from being too quiet, too plain. Plain is not the way to do a Queen and Company card. At least not for me. So we're going to go ahead and finish putting all of this on. And then we're just about finished. Only 3 more cards with bling to go and we'll be all done with all of the cards. Okay, over here on this little circle. Okay, and now this card is finished. Okay, now let's do our basket card. So on our basket card, let's get this red or this blue right in the middle of our red flower. There we go. And a pink down here in the middle of this one, I think. To tie that pink in a little bit stronger. And then just a little cluster here of our little embellishments. Pink, maybe some blue, a yellow right here. Okay, I think that's enough for that card. Looks good to me. Okay. And our flip-flop card. Let's make sure we get something in the middle of this flower here. Can add that right there like that. And then we've got Maybe a blue up here, pink, and one more of these on this side. And then maybe a little cluster over here, just like it shows on the example sheet. Pretty fun here. I love little embellishment clusters. I think it just kind of adds that little tiny bit of texture and color. Let's see, I want to move that one over just a little bit. Let's see. And up just a little. Okay. There we go. All right. All right, one more card. Let's grab our Hello Summer card. And let's see, maybe one of these up here. Maybe, let's see, be a yellow right here. Be good. And let's see, another one down here. And let's just add these little dots. We've kind of got a few left here that would be good to add around our card. Can add some over here too. Maybe right here. Maybe another one right here. Okay, and then just however else you want to kind of finish these out. Kind of fun to have these colors bouncing around the card. Oh, I've got one pink one left. Maybe we'll just put it right here. Just to kind of finish that out color-wise. All right, so I used the whole sheet. You obviously don't have to, but kind of fun to add those little pops of color all around your card. Almost like little paint drops. I love how these epoxy dots turned out. They're very, very cute. Okay, so there you go. 6 finished cards. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the card kit. I hope you had a lot of fun putting them together, and I hope you have even more fun finding recipients for them. I know they'll bring a lot of smiles to a lot of happy faces, knowing that you took the time to make something so special for them. And if you enjoyed this kit, I hope very much that you will check out the full Summer Loving kit, which has the dies, the paper, the foam, the acetate, the toppings to make lots more cards, so way more than 6. So I hope that if you enjoyed that, you'll check that out. And if you enjoyed the shapes in this kit, I hope that you will check out foundation die 26 and 27 so that you can cut lots more of those shapes yourself as well. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for being a customer, and we hope you have a wonderful day.